have you checked your savings account balance lately? A lot of people probably don't even want to because a new survey by Bankrate.com finds that 28% of all Americans have virtually no savings at all. What's their plan exactly, I'm wondering? Joining me now is David Mercer, a Democratic strategist, and Guy Benson on the conservative side. Gentlemen, thanks for joining me. When I read this, my first thought was about retirement. I'm thinking if you have no savings at all, you know, what are you sort of thinking is going to happen in the long run? Are you thinking you're going to work forever? Are you thinking that your kids are going to support you? I mean, good luck with that, because we do so many stories on how kids aren't getting jobs now, or there's no hope of them ever doing better than their parents. Social Security is going bust. The government is $16 trillion in debt. I'm wondering, is our country just going to hell in a handbasket? David, take first crack at that one. It's a big question.
First of all, I think Americans are more optimistic, and the spirit is more optimistic. I'm certainly more optimistic, and the audience, I would hope, is with regard to thinking that we're going to hell in a handbasket.
But David, they don't have any savings.
That may be. There are a lot of people that had to dip into savings. One reason is because, for instance, on either losing their job or having increased student loans or whatever it may be, they are finding it tougher. Now, when we continue to put downward pressure on wages, when we continue to bail out banks, but yet they don't provide access to capital, those costs are going to go up and the savings are going to go down. And we can address that. We've been addressing it. We've gotten 4.2 million jobs back from the private sector that were lost in the years preceding Obama. And we've also gotten 435 manufacturing jobs, 435,000 manufacturing jobs. So we need to keep going forward and be positive about it, and we can see those gains recouped.
All right, let me turn to Guy, because anytime somebody points out how we've created 4.5 million private sector jobs or whatever, you just have to look at the fact that we're down more than 500,000 jobs than when Obama originally came to office. So I don't know. I mean, those numbers sort of drive me crazy a little bit.
Yeah, but 4.2 million jobs is more than Bush ever created in the 2 terms that he was there, just to point that out.
Okay, well, first of all, just to respond to that, President Bush's average unemployment rate was 5.2%. So we can go and play these games back and forth, but that doesn't have anything to do with the topic at hand. And so I think it's interesting and illustrative in some ways that, Melissa, you asked the question, and David went straight into a kind of political answer. And I think that for me, when I first saw the story today, I thought, gosh, how much do I have saved up? And is that enough? Is that 3 months' worth for a rainy day fund? Is that 6 months' worth? How much do I actually have in the bank? And my first impulse was not to say, I wonder what the political class could do for me. My instinct was to say, what do I need to do to make sure that I am taken care of in my own self-sustaining life? And I think that this is something, when we're talking about individual families and their savings accounts, we should be looking at families making financial decisions for themselves, not immediately look to Washington, D.C.
And if I might, Melissa, if I might add, we live in a political economy. And I can't stand, look, we all want to be self-sufficient and we want to do things on our own. But to perpetuate the myth that was just raised, Mitt Romney sounds like some made millionaire. No, let me finish if I might, Melissa.
I will. I just want to point out what we're seeing at the bottom of the screen here, because we are seeing some breaking news that we've been expecting all day, but still it's happened. So I want to point it out that Moody's has cut the ratings for all of the Spanish banks. They're announcing that they are downgrading long-term debt and deposit ratings on 28 Spanish banks by 1 to 4 notches is what we're looking at now. So we're going to get you more details on this story as we're going to continue this conversation. Is that right? Okay.
If we may.
Go ahead. Finish making your point.
And the point, we have this myth of the self-made man. We do this as a community. And for it to go on, for instance, even pointing out with Mitt Romney, who makes it sound like he just was a genius when it came to Bain Capital. He borrowed billions of dollars. He went to the government for major subsidies amounting to billions of dollars. But you don't hear him talking about that. But he could have never gotten some of those deals done if he didn't have entitlements from the government. So he is not going on it alone. And nor should any American go at it alone, because that's not the reality of it.
Go ahead, Guy.
This conversation has absolutely nothing to do with Bain Capital and the over 100,000 jobs.
It sure does. It sure does, because they were at the government trough.
Please let Guy finish, David. You had your chance. Let Guy speak. Thank you so much.
No, it has nothing to do with Bain Capital. The story is about the number of American families that have no savings in their bank account. We weren't talking about Mitt Romney. We weren't talking about Bain Capital. I would be delighted to talk about those things if we're invited on to talk about them. But what we're talking about is what American families need to do. Of course, there needs to be a safety net for people who cannot help themselves and for people to whom we've already made promises. But if we want to talk about government programs and government policies, let's try to shore up the entitlement programs that are already going to
and I will say that it's both, because Bain Capital was getting government subsidies and then outsourcing jobs. And when people are having their jobs outsourced and they are fired, then people don't have the means to save. So let's not say that that doesn't exist. It does, and it's a political economy, and political choices are made that accrue sometimes to the benefit of those that would rather not acknowledge that it's the case.
So the people who don't have savings right now, that's the government's fault, and it's up to the government to fix it. I just want to be clear.
No, those are not my words, Melissa.
No, it's Mitt Romney's fault, Melissa.
No, it's not. And that's not also what I said. We are making choices. We keep giving subsidies, to energy when they're energy sector when they're experiencing all-time profits. And let me tell you, I've worked for Procter & Gamble, Bank of Boston, the corporate America, but we have an imbalance. And when we are handing out subsidies to the Exxons of the world to the tune of $4 billion, and they are not creating more jobs, then that's a problem.
Okay, guys, we got to leave it there, as much as I'd like to continue this, because we're going to go to this breaking news that we have now more on Spain. Thanks to both of you for joining us.